standing in the actual operating room where not long ago I had my open heart surgery. And one day, because statistics don't lie, some of you may find yourself on an operating table like this one. Pretty scary, but it doesn't have to be. Tonight I want to take you on a journey, my own, and share with you how being wheeled into this room saved my life. You're also going to hear for the first time the personal and emotional stories of President Bill Clinton, David Letterman, Robin Williams, Regis Philbin, and Charlie Rose, all of whom had open heart surgery. Together we're going to open up our hearts to you and tell you what each of us, women as well as men, needs to know about heart disease to save ourselves and our loved ones. It's no big deal. It's just a matter of life and death. All my life, I've been in perfect health. I've never missed a day of work. I rise early, often take a vigorous walk across Central Park, and head to the View. I prep. Hi there. Check in with the ladies.
Oh, it's Whoopi.
Da, 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 da.
And then showtime.
I always say Barbara is a robot because she's like the battery-operated toy that just keeps moving.
After the show, I race to my office at ABC News, and between my news specials, The View, and even a radio show. Yes, Barbara, you know, Mondays are always a very busy day. My life is full. I barely have a chance to breathe, which brings me to my heart and yours. Each day, this amazing muscle beats 100,000 times and pumps 2,000 gallons of blood filled with oxygen through our bodies. In an average lifetime, our hearts will beat more than 2.5 billion times. Now, when it comes to heart disease, men and women very often have different symptoms. For a man, it's the chest pain that goes down the arm. For a woman, it's much more subtle. It can be nausea. It can be just being out of breath. Genetically, there's no history of heart disease in my family. But in the fall of 2009, I went to a doctor for a routine checkup. Like this 48-year-old woman, I had a baseline blood test and EKG. Then I had a heart stress test to measure my response to increased activity. I was also hooked up to an echocardiogram to produce images of blood racing through my heart. And it goes whoosh, whoosh. You can see it and you can hear it. Later, my cardiologist, Dr. Jerry Glicklich of New York Presbyterian Hospital, didn't like what he saw.
We saw that the main valve that leads from the heart to the rest of the body did not open appropriately.
It was too narrow?
It was too narrow. And the heart had to work extra hard to push the blood out.
His recommendation, open heart surgery to replace my aortic valve. Surgery, I said? Me? I wasn't sure what that was. It just sounded perfectly awful. So instead of going for one opinion, I went for four. One was Dr. Craig Smith, the world-renowned heart surgeon at New York Presbyterian Hospital. This is the actual room in which you operated on me?
Yes.
I don't remember it at all.
I wouldn't expect you to.
Doctor, before open heart surgery was available, what happened to people who needed a valve replacement or a bypass?
The people who had your problem would die in a year or two untreated.
My doctor said I would need surgery within a year. And I thought, I'll put this off. What's my hurry? Still no symptoms. But my heart made the decision for me. Last spring, walking across Central Park, as I often do, with my pals, Bryant Renfro and Laurie Klein, we approached a beautiful area called the Bethesda Fountain that has a big flight of stairs. And I said, Bryant, Laurie, I'm feeling pressure. I told my doctor, and he said, I don't like that.
We don't pressure, so can we...
He sent me to have an angiogram, a kind of x-ray of blood vessels, using a dye to detect any blockages in and around the heart. My arteries were clear, but my aortic valve was dangerously narrow.
Your chance of being alive in 2 years is about 50-50, which makes it more lethal than just about any cancer except pancreatic cancer.
So in 2 weeks, I had my surgery. I knew I couldn't keep it a secret, so on May 10th, I told our audience, later this week, I'm going to have surgery to replace one faulty heart valve.
Well, we're actually shocked.
Certainly nothing we expected.
I did a lot of praying.
I know nothing was gonna happen to her. Are you kidding? That's Barbara Walters we're talking about. We're not talking about some namby-pamby person. This is Barbara Walters.
I'm glad Whoopi was confident. In fact, only 2% die from the surgery. But I redid my will anyway, and I wasn't alone. My daughter Jackie was by my side. My daughter kept a little diary of what went on during my surgery. May 12th, the day of the surgery. I just wanted to keep quiet and be there for her. We got into the car. It was silent. We drove to the hospital. It seemed like we were walking through a maze. Strangely enough, I wasn't frightened. It was as if it wasn't happening to me. I also had this thought: if I die on the operating table, I won't know it. Like this 66-year-old woman, Ninita Ong, I was wheeled into operating room 22 at New York Presbyterian Hospital to have my aortic valve replaced by Dr. Smith, who has performed over 6,000 open heart surgeries. The reason they call it open heart surgery is that they take a saw, a real saw, and it goes zzz. Then they take a crowbar, and they go.
You ready to go?
We're ready to go.
Go ahead.
And then, in order to work on my damaged valve, doctors literally stopped my heart.
And now ready to stop the heart.
For 1 hour, the only thing keeping me alive was this heart and lung machine. When my heart is stopped, am I dead?
No, not by any stretch. No, the machine is circulating all the blood that your brain needs, and the oxygenating part of the machine is adding oxygen, doing the work of the lungs.
Once my heart was stopped, a nurse brought the new valve to Dr. Smith, who then removed the flawed valve and sewed the new one into place. I have a cow valve. Yes?
Correct. The cow valve looks exactly like this, so your valve looks quite a bit like that.
I remember nothing of this surgical construction site. I was happy to sleep through it while my daughter anxiously waited for an update. Dr. Smith called. I heard him say, "You were out of surgery, you were in recovery, and you were okay." There was something angelic about you. I always loved you, but at that moment, it was like a different connection was formed. My daughter took a picture of me sitting up. I'm smiling away and reading the newspaper. I was in the hospital for about 10 days, but I wasn't in pain. I kept hearing how painful this was. It wasn't. Was I a typical patient?
You were typical in that you had some setbacks.
I didn't know I had setbacks. What were my setbacks?
You were anemic.
Really?
And reluctantly, we had to transfuse you. You had something called atrial fibrillation, which had it persisted would have required you to be on blood thinners, but with medications that resolved. You don't remember.
Hey, I don't, doctor. I thought I had no problems at all.
That's one of the great things about open heart surgery is that people don't remember their time in the hospital.
I almost thought I had a good time, although I don't want to do it again.
No.
The major symptom you have is enormous fatigue. I could barely make it from my bed to the kitchen. Good judging. If you walked 6 steps, you were exhausted. But it was over. I was alive. I was even told to gain weight. And for the first time in years, I stuffed myself on bologna sandwiches and hot dogs almost every day, and then walked it off in the park. They were paparazzi. But it was a good thing that they took a picture of me because people realized that I wasn't all curled up in a fetal position.
Are you feeling okay?
How do I look?
You look great.
That's all I do.
By the way, you want to see my scar? You're looking at it. It begins right here and goes down to right here, and it's almost invisible. My home looked like a funeral chapel, flooded with flowers and cards. I was very touched. But by July, 2.5 months after my surgery, it was time to go back to work. President Obama decided that he wanted to be on The View, the first time a sitting president had ever been in a daytime talk show. Well, I had to be on, didn't I?
Look, I was trying to find a show that Michelle actually watched.
I had never felt better. But my official return didn't come until September. I walked on that set what a wonderful feeling. And the audience stood up and applauded. And my pal, David Letterman, who had had open heart surgery, was our special guest to greet me. I was back.